are here in God.
He screams. A lot. Like, a lot. But before he became the internet's loudest voice, before the screams echoed across YouTube with millions of people listening, Darren Watkins Jr. was struggling with something far more painful than any game loss or intense moment could create. He was dead broke, not just low on cash, not just struggling. We're talking about a kid who couldn't afford to stream properly, who was watching his dreams sit right in front of him on a computer screen while his bank account told him they weren't possible. But what happened next is the kind of story that doesn't make sense until you understand that sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one that figured out how to turn absolutely nothing into something worth millions. And it all started with one simple thing. He refused to quit when it would have been so much easier to stop. Let's take this back to where it all started. Darren was just another kid with a passion for gaming, but he wasn't the kid with the best equipment or the biggest family backing his dreams. He was grinding on a modest PC, playing games that were already dominated by established creators who had better gear, bigger audiences, and frankly, way more resources than he did. The online gaming scene is brutal. It's one of the most competitive spaces on the internet because everyone with a controller and a dream thinks they're going to be the next big thing. The barrier to entry is low, which means the competition is absolutely massive. When you're starting out, you're not just competing with the people in your city or your country anymore. You're competing with every single talented person across the entire globe. It's overwhelming. It's demotivating. It's the kind of thing that makes most people quit before they even really get started. But Darren didn't quit. Instead, he made a decision that would become the core of everything he did. He decided that if he couldn't compete on equipment, he would compete on personality and dedication. He would show up day after day, streaming for hours when most people would have given up. He was streaming to tiny audiences, talking to chat like they were his best friends, being authentic in a space where most creators are performing a character. The thing about YouTube and streaming platforms is that they reward consistency and personality above almost everything else. The algorithm doesn't care about your equipment. It doesn't care if you have the best gaming rig or the worst one. What it cares about is engagement, retention, and click-through rates. And those things come from being genuinely interesting and present in a way that connects with people. His screaming became his signature. Now, this might sound like a gimmick, and maybe it was at first, but it became something more than that. It became authenticity. Darren is legitimately that excited about gaming. He's not faking the intensity or the passion. When something crazy happens in a game, he screams. When he wins, he screams. When he loses, he screams even harder. His chat loved it because it was real. There's something about human authenticity that the internet absolutely rewards when everything else is so manufactured and performative. While other creators were trying to build a brand identity or fit into some kind of mold, Darren was just being himself, completely unleashed, screaming like a kid who had just experienced something genuinely exciting. And people connected with that in massive ways. The transition from struggling to successful wasn't instantaneous. There wasn't one single video that made him famous. Instead, it was a cumulative effect of consistency and authenticity building over months and months of streaming. His audience grew slowly at first, then faster, then exponentially. Each stream, he was refining his craft. Each video, he was understanding his audience better. He started to recognize what made people click, what made them stay, what made them come back for more. And here's the critical lesson that most aspiring creators miss. He was building a community, not just an audience. His viewers weren't just passive consumers of content. They felt like they were part of something. They were part of the IShowSpeed experience. They contributed to the chaos. They were invested in his wins and his losses. Once the audience started growing, the monetization began. YouTube ad revenue was the foundation, but it was never going to be enough to turn his situation around dramatically. That's when he diversified. He started streaming on Twitch, where subscribers and donations created multiple revenue streams beyond just ad impressions. He took sponsorships from gaming companies who wanted to reach his audience. He started selling merchandise to fans who wanted to support him and wear his brand. He created a Patreon where dedicated fans could get exclusive content and perks. Each of these revenue streams individually wouldn't have been massive, but combined, they started to add up in real ways. The guy who couldn't afford decent equipment was now making legitimate money from doing what he loved. But the real explosion came when he understood the power of cross-platform presence. He didn't just stream on one platform. He took clips from his streams and uploaded them to YouTube Shorts and TikTok. These short-form videos became viral. Millions of people who never would have watched his full streams saw these intense, chaotic, 15-second clips of him screaming and playing incredible gaming moments. And many of those people wanted more. They wanted to know who this guy was. They wanted to see the full context, so they went to YouTube. They went to Twitch. The short-form content became a funnel that fed his longer-form audiences. This is a strategy that most creators completely miss. They think each platform is separate. They don't understand that they're all connected, and that content designed for one platform can drive traffic to all the others. At this point, his annual earnings had crossed into the millions. We're talking about 6, 7, and eventually 8-figure annual revenue. But here's what separated him from a lot of creators who make similar money and then lose it all. He was smart about his financial situation. He didn't just blow money on flashy cars and houses. He invested in his content. He upgraded his equipment when it made sense to do so. He hired team members to help him with editing, thumbnail design, and community management. He was building a business infrastructure around his content creation. This might sound unsexy compared to buying a Ferrari, but it's actually the smart move. By investing back into his content, he made it even better, which drove more views, which generated more revenue. It's a compounding effect. His influence also started extending beyond gaming. He became a mainstream celebrity. He appeared in collaborative videos with other huge creators. He attended gaming events and conferences as a headline attraction. Brands that had nothing to do with gaming wanted him for endorsements because he had access to millions of engaged young people. A single Instagram post or a single appearance could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. He wasn't just a gaming streamer anymore. He was a cultural phenomenon. And that status brought opportunities that wouldn't have been available to him when he was just another person streaming to 50 people in his room. So here's what we can actually take from the IShowSpeed story if we're being real about it. First, he had something that's harder to manufacture than people think: genuine passion. He wasn't faking excitement about gaming because he actually loved it. Second, he had an insane amount of persistence. He kept showing up and creating content when he had basically no audience. He wasn't waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect setup. He was working with what he had and improving incrementally. Third, he understood his audience better than they understood themselves. He gave them exactly what they wanted, which was raw, unfiltered, genuine reaction to gaming moments. Fourth, he was smart about scaling. Once he had an audience, he didn't stop there. He expanded to other platforms. He diversified his revenue streams. He built infrastructure. Fifth, he wasn't afraid of being himself. In a space where everyone's trying to build this perfect persona, he just screamed and reacted like a normal person would react. That authenticity became his superpower. The journey from broke to millions isn't some mysterious thing that happens to lucky people. It's the result of showing up, being authentic, understanding your audience, diversifying your income, and reinvesting in yourself and your work. Darren Watkins Jr. didn't have the biggest advantage when he started. He had passion and persistence, and those things, when combined with strategic thinking and genuine connection with an audience, can turn into something extraordinary. The guy who couldn't afford decent equipment is now worth millions. But more importantly, he's created a career doing something he loves, surrounded by an audience that genuinely cares about what he does. And if that's not success, I don't know what is.